What a beautiful first two races it has been, especially for the two of us. We're here to talk about the Bahrain Grand Prix, where Max Verstappen won from Sergio Perez and Fernando Alonso. And we're here to talk about the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, where Sergio Perez won from Max Verstappen and Fernando Alonso. Jordan, I think the hope the hope that we had has been restored, and it has actually come through. And this optimism that we have had for so long has finally come to fruition. Aston Martin is a good team.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
it reminds me of the Racing Point days in the last season of Racing Point, where they actually had a good car.
Hey, they were the third best car. Just
They
saying.
were the third best car, and this year they might just be the second. And it reminds me of those days where like you had optimism they could fight at the front, and it's a good optimism to have because they're not, you know, for sure uh it's guaranteed they're gonna win, but they're like fighting.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, look, I think we're gonna go into this a little bit throughout the throughout the next few minutes. I mean, we're going to talk about the last few races in a little bit of a different format, but I mean, we could both say that Red Bull are basically miles away from the competition, but you never know what could happen. I mean, it clearly shows that when things go right, they're the second best car.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
I think that we're gonna get to Red Bull in a second, but we're gonna we're gonna get to Red Bull in a second, and we're gonna discuss whether they might be the best car in Formula One history, as per a Sir Lewis Hamilton. So
Ooh, Hamilton said that.
yeah,
Does he
but
know what cars he drove?
yeah, the W was
He
in front
drove
of
some
him.
pretty crazy
The
cars.
2020 rendition with the 2020 rendition of the Mercedes that had what was that system called? Now I'm forgetting.
The
It was
DAS.
the DAS system. That system was,
It was so good that they banned
yeah,
it.
yeah, they had to ban it. So that's how
It
good it
was
was.
so good that they banned it. Um,
So
so we're gonna talk about these races in a new format. Um, New as in, I guess, with a twist. We're going to go from reverse constructors orders and talk about each team individually and how they performed over the last two races. So
yeah,
I have in front of me, or at least you could see you could see a little bit of my phone. You could see the results for the teams. And we're going to start from, oh my god, P10 McLaren. What an absolute mess.
I think there should be an episode of just let's talk about McLaren because
We should. Oh, I would definitely rant about
should fully
McLaren.
just be an episode because McLaren, you go from being the third best car on the grid in 2020. You go from fighting for P4 last year with Alpine. You pay Daniel Ricciardo $15 million to not drive your car. And they've had the worst start to the season that I think I think Williams 2020 before COVID was worse,
That
but
was disastrous.
I think that this is like just like that. Like it's like it's very comparable to
Well,
how bad
okay.
the start of the season is.
Williams didn't like the Rocket Williams sponsorship team, everything didn't even make it to the beginning of the season. So I disastrous to that level, maybe not, but it's definitely pretty horrible. Um, the first thing that I could say to that is Otmar Safnauer is currently looking at Oscar Piastri and saying, "To whom it may concern, f you."
Literally.
Oh, what? I like Alpine is just laughing in Oscar Piastri's face. You know he's younger than us, right? Oscar Piastri,
I know it's crazy to even think about.
born in 2001.
What are we doing with our lives?
What are we doing with our lives? We're talking about people who are younger than us.
Literally.
Um, but yeah, and here's the thing. As much as we rip Piastri, I mean he had a mechanical DNF in Bahrain and definitely didn't do well in Saudi Arabia. But McLaren have a horrible car with horrible reliability. Was it Lando that had to pit 5 or 6 times
In
in
Bahrain.
in Bahrain? What the hell was that? Why did they just keep him out?
I think their first goal was to finish a race. And the fact that they finally finished a race was very, impressive for their standards this season.
Yeah.
Because he pitted 5 times. There was an issue with the steering wheel in Piastri's car in Bahrain. And, the issues, it's actually interesting because there was an analyst on Sky Sports F1. I don't remember exactly who said this, but one of the technical analysts was saying that when you have these issues that are issues that you should not be having, issues that are, kind of like their wheel brow, where you have to spend time fixing that, you then spend less time on the track discovering issues with your pace, with the reliability of your car. It
Mm.
is a domino effect, whether you like it or not. So, because they had these minute issues in testing, it's kind of like the Bahrain weekend was their version of testing, where they were really testing the long run pace of their car.
Mm-hmm.
And they discovered issues they would have discovered back in testing the week before.
Yeah.
So it really was that Saudi Arabia was kind of like their first real showing, and it
Of
didn't
how
go that
awful they were.
yeah.
uh
But
honestly, I have no pity for Oscar Piastri.
look, everyone's asking, everybody in the F1 media is asking themselves the question. It's only 2 races in, Jonah, but do you think that Piastri regrets choosing McLaren over Alpine?
I don't think that Oscar Piastri cares about how he performs this season in terms of that decision. I think that Oscar Piastri left Alpine on, I wouldn't say a moral basis, but on a personal basis where he was like, I don't care how good their car is. I want to get the hell out of here. And he did. And yeah, sure, he's probably looking at what might have been, but at the same time, he did what he had to do to get out of Alpine. And I'm assuming in like 5, 6 races from now, we're gonna see some Alpine rumors and Alpine drama as we normally do, 6 or 7 races into the season. And it's just, being hidden right now because they have a semi decent car. Um, but I don't think that Oscar genuinely cares. I think that he put himself first, and regardless of the car quality, he had to put himself first, and he did.
Yeah, I don't think he's at fault for necessarily choosing McLaren. I don't think the issues at McLaren have anything to do with him, and they can't fault him for it. However, I would feel like as a competitor, as a racing driver, they're naturally competitors and they naturally compare themselves to others. That's just the nature of what the industry that they're in. You have to wonder, would I be learning more at a team that has more of their stuff together right now? So for that reason, I do believe that Oscar may, feel some sort of way about Alpine. I don't think he actually does, but I do think that that's the idea that could be flowing through his head
Yeah.
when he looks at the timesheets.
But here's the counter to that. You said Oscar might think, what if I could learn with a team that has its stuff together? Does Alpine really have its stuff together?
Well, we'll talk about that when we get to
We're gonna
Alpine.
find out in like 4 or 5 races. I'm waiting for something to blow up, as it always does with Alpine.
Well, we'll talk about that when we get to Alpine. We'll talk about Alpine's performance,
Yeah.
but let's move on to
Let's move on.
AlphaTauri.
P9 is AlphaTauri. And How many times have I said Yuki Tsunoda doesn't deserve to be in F1?
A lot of times. Let's say like 20 times.
Yeah, I've definitely said it a few times. And Nick DeVries. I don't know if he's trying his best to get used to the F1 car or if we all truly overhyped him.
Look, it's only 2 races in.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm just going off with all the hot takes.
yeah. Oh, it's John. It's only 2 races in. You are talking about Formula E, a Formula Two winner. Uh, so
But
it's
he
only
didn't win F3 like Oscar Piastri did.
no, he did not. But we are talking about multiple series championship winner. So let's not cut him short yet. I will note 2 things. First of all, the AlphaTauri car, I don't think is as bad as people are making it out to be. It's
No,
not
to be
the be
fair,
all end all. It
they were just on the cusp of points. So it
Yeah,
wasn't as
it
bad
wasn't.
as everyone sought it out to be.
Yeah, Kevin Magnussen got I think the last points in Saudi Arabia, and there was
Yeah,
a battle at the end between him and Sonoda for
and
it. So
Tsunoda. Exactly. I mean,
it's
like,
not. It has the potential to nip some points, just like Williams does, and just like has to. So I would put them in like that sort of that kind of tier right now. I don't think they're that terrible.
well, to be fair, Williams has a point and AlphaTauri has none.
Yes, but they were P11. I think they were like just a second or two off of P11, if I remember correctly.
Yes, and how many times last year did Lance finish P11 and got no points for it? So
Okay, it's 2 races into the season.
look,
So that's
I'm
number
just
one of
coming
note.
here taking names.
The second thing I'll say about AlphaTauri, and we can discuss this, is that I think we're starting to see, Nick DeVries was under Toto Wolff's a mentorship umbrella for quite some time as the reserve driver Mercedes. It's actually so funny now. Whenever they zoom into Toto Wolff during the race, you see Mick Schumacher next to him. When you're so used to seeing Nick DeVries,
I honestly, I love it.
yeah,
It looks
it's
like a
funny.
father and son duo.
It's very funny. So, um, but what I was saying was Nick DeVries is very used to the Mercedes engine, also because the only teams he's ever driven / test driven for have been Mercedes powered teams.
That's
In
true.
Williams was a Mercedes power engine.
Yeah,
In
Aston
the Aston
Martin.
Martin, there's a Mercedes powered. It's a Mercedes powered car, and Mercedes, the works team, is a Mercedes powered car.
No
Um,
way.
yeah, so I feel like we kind of have to, kind of similar to Daniel Ricciardo switching teams all the time and having tough beginning of seasons. We kind of have to cut Nick DeVries some slack because he's going to a Red Bull powertrains team. This isn't like he's going to a Renault Power or Ferrari Power. This
Which
is a
is
team
soon
that
gonna
just
be
started
Red Bull
producing engines
Ford.
last year.
It's so soon gonna be Red Bull Ford on top of that in 2026.
Right. So
I
I know
vibe with
we're
that.
like back to like Honda Racing sponsorships too this year.
Yeah, I
I thought
don't
that
get
was
this.
very weird.
Does Honda want to be in F1 or do
I
they
don't
not
know
want to
because
be in
last year the
F1?
Honda was nowhere to be seen, but now the HRC logo, Honda Racing Club or whatever it is,
They
it,
sponsored the Japanese Grand Prix.
yeah, they sponsor the Japanese Grand Prix. They sponsor Red Bull. Honda HRC is on the Red Bull car. I don't know what it is. They even have sometimes they even refer to the Red Bull engine as the Honda engine still. I don't get it, to be honest.
I don't get it either.
Okay, so I'm glad we're on the same page.
Yeah, we're both equally confused.
So, anyways,
Is Honda in F1? Do they want to stay in F1?
yeah, please clarify this for the JJF1 community.
Yeah, Honda, if
Um,
you're listening, send us a DM.
yes, please. And I do want to say that I think that Nick DeVries is just, adapting to a new car because he's so used to a car and he kind of has to like take the time for his brain to rewire that way.
Can I counter?
You of course, this is what the show is
I'm
about.
gonna counter. The man was in Formula E and he went from F2 to Formula E and managed to, on top of that, switch to two different F1 cars in the span of 2 days and got a point. the man knows how to adapt to different cars. I understand your concept of it of yeah, it's a Mercedes engine, but I also think that switching from Formula E to F1 is another thing where you can't even compare the two. Um, to be fair, the racing is fun in Formula E. I watched this weekend. But I think that the switch from Formula E to Formula One and still managing to put up a point last year shows that he can, in fact, adapt to a car pretty quickly. So I'm not going to say that I think that he's a bust immediately after two races, but I'm not as optimistic as you are.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. A driver that I used to be very optimistic about, but unfortunately am no longer, is Valtteri Bottas. And Valtteri Bottas drives
Valtteri Bottas.
for Alfa Romeo. And I think that
They're
they're next
not.
on the list.
No, actually, they're
Who am
six
I missing?
constructors.
Who am I missing?
You're missing Williams.
I am missing Williams.
Alex
Right.
Albon got a point. That's the highlight.
I am very optimistic about Alex Albon.
I'm feeling Alex Albon. And you know what? Logan Sargent isn't doing too badly. Never
Look,
mind.
if it if it wasn't for his little going off in Q3 in Saudi Arabia, which I didn't think was like that terrible, and he could have performed pretty well in qualifying
He was very close to getting into Q3.
to Q2. But yeah,
Yeah, yes, you got the idea.
yes, to
Um,
Q2. And yeah, but he went off like little 2 millimeters.
yeah, in a scenario where De Vries and Sonoda finished 16th and 17th for the record. I don't
Right.
know. I'm feeling I'm more optimistic right now. And I'm saying right now because it'll probably change about Logan Sargent than I am about Nick De Vries.
See, I have to counter that. I feel more optimistic about Nick DeVries.
Okay.
I'm hoping that he'll adapt very quickly to a Red Bull team.
Just wait until Miami when Logan Sargent is 20 minutes from his home and he'll pull a point out of nowhere. Watch me.
Oh yeah.
He's
Hopefully
from
Lance Stroll
Fort
does the same.
Lauderdale.
Yeah, hopefully Lance Stroll does the same when he is 20 minutes from his Westmount home in Montreal.
Listen, if we don't expect Lance to get points in Montreal. We expect him to get a podium in Montreal.
Expect him to win in Montreal.
We expect him to win in Montreal. That's true. He performs like crazy when he's in Montreal. He scored his first points in Montreal. He did not score his first podium, but like he always does significantly better when he's in Montreal.
Yes, but speaking of first podium, Baku is coming up, and that's your favorite race. So
No, well, Melbourne is next.
next, yeah, but after Melbourne,
After Melbourne is Baku.
it's
And
fourth on the calendar this year.
yeah, what is this calendar orientation has been pretty weird, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's also there's like a summer break in between Melbourne and Baku for some reason.
Really?
It's like a month long.
It's yeah, it's April. So the race in Australia is April 2nd. That's this Sunday. And then the next after that is April 30th. So it's a 3 week
Yeah,
break.
yeah. It's like a mini summer break.
I feel like they're trying to give the teams the benefit of the doubt. They knew that Red Bull was going to be super fast, and they're like, figure it out. You
Wind
have
tunnel
3 weeks.
time.
You have
Use your
3
wind
weeks.
tunnel time, Aston Martin.
Yeah. Get in the wind tunnel.
Um,
But
but
yeah,
anyways,
how are
Albon
you?
performed really well. Albon. I have to say this, okay? I used to love Valtteri Bottas, but I really like Alex Albon.
You've
He,
been
he's
you've been all over the place on Alex Albon, to be honest with you.
he is a good dude, has a good heart, volunteers at the orphanage. All
Yes,
right.
that's true.
Has a girlfriend who plays professional golf. Two athletes, two driven people.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a good dude. He's just a good guy, and
Yeah,
he deserves
and he
points.
drives well too.
And he drives well too, and he's a historic team. Who now James Vowles is in charge of. So I'm
I'm vibing with James Vowles' team principal, to be honest with
yeah,
you.
he's been doing some good work. So
Yeah.
let's applaud Alex Albon, and we'll move on to the next team.
And
Very
we
happy.
remain hopeful for Logan Sargent, or at least I remain hopeful
You
for Logan
remain
Sargent.
hopeful. I think he's gonna be another Robert Kubica.
Oof, that's
Yeah.
rough.
He'll get points here and there, but in 2 seasons' time, we're not going to look at them as if they're that high of accomplishment.
Nicholas Latifi lasted 3.
I didn't say Nicholas Latifi. I said
I
Robert
know.
Kubica.
But
Like he's
also,
been
Robert Kubica drove that car with one hand.
yes, understood. But the reason why I'm saying Robert Kubica is because he has moments where he can perform.
That's true.
Actually, you know what? A better comparison is Brandon Hartley. That's a better
Brandon
comparison.
Hartley was awful.
But he had like 1 or 2 races where he got points.
That was so no. Brendan Hartley was so bad. It was so bad.
Remember when he crashed into Lance Stroll in Montreal?
Yes, that crash replays in my mind at least once every week.
All right. Well,
All right, let's talk about Haas next.
yes,
Nico and Kevin.
the Suck My Balls duo.
This, yep. Just as
That's what I call them.
mediocre as I thought they would be.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I call them. They're a very interesting duo. Because if you've noticed, the first race, Nico Hulkenberg went into Q3, finished behind Magnussen. The
Yes.
second race, I believe Magnussen qualified also lower and then finished again further than Nico in the pecking order. Got points.
Yeah, but meanwhile, they have 1 point to their name. With 3 cars out of 4 possible in Q3.
But that's what I'm saying. If Kevin Magnussen is able to drive that car on race day, Nico Hulkenberg has to at least be keeping that car where he qualifies. So he can't be going back.
I think that car just has no pace.
And they have, it seems like no race pace, but at the same time, it's hard to make that argument. And this is why I'm uncertain about Haas. I can't really make it. I can't determine really where they are in the pecking order because of this, because they've shown such different results from different drivers on different days.
That's true.
You know, we could say they have no race pace, but Kevin Magnussen managed to get that car from, I believe, P15 or P14 it was on qualifying to a points finish, you know? So it's like, it's hard to understand where they are really.
Mm-hmm. But also, after Bahrain last year, Kevin Magnussen had 10 points to his name.
Right, but you know, we also have to remember that 2 Red Bulls DNF'd in that race. And their development race was not on, and that's where Haas really struggles historically, is the development race. We gotta remember the rich energy days of Haas when, you know, they had a great car at the beginning of the season. They also like qualified 4th and 5th, I believe, a couple times at the beginning of the season in Albert Park. And by the end of the year, like they were doing so poorly that Rich Energy mid-season dropped their sponsorship.
Yeah.
So the issue with Haas has never been the beginning of the season. It's always been the development race.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes me think that maybe they allocated, especially with that whole situation of now they only have 3 people on the pit wall, saving money there. It makes me.
They said it was so that they could be eco-responsible.
Yeah, and save 250 grand in the season.
Yeah. What if they put that towards their car? I mean, 250 grand gets you nowhere, but
no, but it does help you save a lot of money if you have some repairs to do throughout the year.
Yeah.
So maybe it makes me believe that they're developing their car a little bit more and focusing on that a bit more.
I also think they're gonna have, hopefully, far less repairs to do than when they had Schumacher and Mazepin.
Well, yeah, that was the goal in signing Nico Hulkenberg and having 2 experienced drivers.
Yeah.
Because we all remember
to save money.
Yeah, exactly. We all remember those the 2021 race in Imola when Mick Schumacher would just be driving along the straight and
and then
into the
hit the
wall.
side of his car.
Yeah.
Oh, I love F1.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Do we have
that's
honestly Haas is just as mediocre as I thought they were gonna be, to be honest with
same. I agree. I really thought they were didn't I didn't think they're gonna be anything crazy. I didn't think they were gonna be anything great.
you. Yeah, I think they were just gonna be unnoticeable. And another team which I think was extremely unnoticeable is sixth place, Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, have they even gotten points? I haven't even seen them at all.
They have 4 points.
Interesting. They really are unnoticeable.
Yeah, but
Um,
I mean, from what I've seen, Joe's been doing pretty well this season.
yeah, I was
Um,
gonna say,
in the
but
situations that he's been put in, however, it's like, okay, if he's fighting for 14th or 15th place, but the battle is fun. I mean, it doesn't make that much of a difference.
look, I think it comes down to this. Bottas has had the worst start to the season that he's ever had.
He wasn't a Williams.
I think that this is worse.
Okay.
This is worse because he was also, we have to keep in mind, he got podiums in that Williams. At the time,
Oh yeah, that's true. The car was actually good then.
yeah, at the
But they
time,
were like
Williams,
just getting off of the like Felipe Massa
Felipe
was
Massa
there.
days. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and the Stroll days.
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't the Stroll days. Like Williams was like middle of the pack, and
And then
then
they got a podium in Baku.
yeah, when it was the tandem of Stroll and
Sorokin.
Sorokin was his
Yeah.
name. When it was that duo, that's when
That
it
was
started to
we're
decline.
hemorrhaging money.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, that's true. It's very true.
So we have to remember Bottas did have a good car, but I think this is the worst start of the season that he's ever had.
Yeah.
He had a good car in the Williams. He had a
Could Joe be doing better though? I don't know. I This team is just so unnoticeable. That's the thing. I don't
we
have a real opinion on them.
this is the issue with teams that are quote unquote the sister teams because we can't expect them to be at the same pace as Ferrari because then what is the
Yeah.
point of the team? But at the same time, how do you measure their success?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just interesting to discuss.
I don't know. What do you think of their potential this year? Do you think that in 2 races from now they're gonna pull a P5 out of nowhere kind of thing, or are they gonna get 0 points between now and Baku?
I think that you know
Is Valtteri Bottas gonna remain Valtteri Bottas?
I look this is where it pains me to say, but I'll you've been saying a lot of hot takes. I'll say one right now, and it really pains me to say this. I don't think Valtteri Bottas is going to get a contract renewal after this season. Your face is really like lighting up. It's
Woo!
yeah.
Jordan,
I know it pains me to say.
what happened to being the what's it called? The team leader of the Valtteri Bottas fan club.
I it's the hope is dwindling, and I'm not that optimistic.
Also,
The way
You know the Joe got the fastest lap in Bahrain.
I know I do I do I he yes I do know that.
What
But
happened?
the way I'll say it is this: in terms of their potential, is I think they're just competing with Williams and Haas right now, and kind of like how the top teams are competing with Alonso. I think that they're also competing with Sonoda. Um, so I think that the
I don't
competition.
think they're that bad.
I think that they're really competing just with Haas, Sonoda, Albon, and so if they could just get ahead from there, they could be the top of like the tier
Mhm. I think that
two.
they would be fighting more with Alpine than anything, for all you know.
No, I really think that they're just trying to be the top of that tier.
Mhm.
And I think that Alpine is in more the middle of the pack, trying to
Also,
climb towards Mercedes.
I've been looking this up. The 4 points that they have on to their name so far this season is because Bottas finished 8th place in Bahrain.
Yeah, so he had a really terrible outing in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
And
I can't believe I really can't believe that you think Valtteri Bottas is not going to get a contract.
no, I don't. I really don't. I'm saying it now. I'm going to maintain
Coming
it.
from you, this is shocking.
Yeah, it's. I was the one who said Bottas is going to partner up with George Russell because Lewis was going to retire. So yes, it is shocking. Look how that turning out. Lewis is going for his 8th world
And
title.
we have all of it on record
We
at the
do, we do.
JJF1
It's why,
podcast.
it's why I can't, I can't refute it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's what's it called? Let's move on because talking about Valtteri Bottas pains me because it doesn't seem like he's gonna be doing, good things this season. I think that um Alfa Romeo is just trying to get ahead of like I said, Haas, Tsunoda, and Alex Albon. Like that's
I
that's
mean,
that's
for all you know, the last four, or no, the bottom five could be interchangeable.
they could be, but I think that there's now that we've kind of talked about the bottom teams, Jonah, we have to kind of establish, at least in my opinion, I think there are two tiers. There's there's Logan Sargent, uh, there's Nick DeVries, there's the McLaren drivers, and there's Valtteri. That's the bottom tier.
I feel bad for Lando.
And then the top tier is Tsunoda, Albon, the Haas drivers, and Guan Yu Zhou. And
Yeah,
that's
that's
just
fair.
reality. And I think that if Alfa Romeo could just be ahead of that second tier, Alfa Romeo has completed their position because the next tier is going towards Alpine, and then you're climbing to the Ferrari Mercedes, and I
Yeah,
don't think that they're there.
interesting.
Yeah, that's my take.
Meanwhile, in P5 we have Alpine, and I think that Formula One right now is set up in three categories. You have the teams that could actually do well. So Red Bull, Aston Martin, Mercedes, and Ferrari. You have the teams that definitely aren't going to do well. Williams, Haas, Alfa Romeo, and AlphaTauri. And then in the middle, there's just Alpine. They're not great, that they're not bad. They're just good.
In your equation, though, are we just assuming McLaren is in the pits?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I've said this. McLaren's done.
we're not even considering them.
No, McLaren's not getting points the entire season.
I don't know about
Unless they put like the Need for Speed Nitro boost in their car, they're not getting any points.
But yeah, Alpine is really stuck in the middle. I actually think it's kind of impressive, and I'll go as far to say that I think Pierre Gasly has been one of like the top three most impressive drivers this season so far in the first two races.
Yeah.
He started, I think, P19 in Bahrain, or P20 was it? I was P20,
Yeah.
whatever. Scored points.
Hold
I
up
believe
the
he also
points.
scored points in Saudi Arabia. I think he's been one of the more impressive drivers, especially at a new team, starting out. So,
And considering the car they have, right?
yeah, it's not like an amazing car, but it's also not an AlphaTauri.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I don't have a lot to say about Alpine.
me
Like
either.
they're not great. They're not horrible. They're just good.
They're good, and it's actually sometimes impressive to see them, in a battle with Mercedes. I do enjoy it, and I hope to see more of it throughout the season. And look, the team from Enstone has been pretty stable throughout the past 3-4 years. They haven't necessarily improved. Maybe
Have they
they
really?
I believe so. Like they
I
haven't
mean, no, there's
necessarily
just been a lot of
improved.
drama surrounding the team where
Yeah,
apparently
I mean,
no
in
one wants
terms
to
of like
be there.
performance and car performance, I haven't seen like much improvement in the
Mhm.
past 4 years. They've always hovered around the fourth and fifth place in the constructors, more the fifth place than anything.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that strategy wise, they did a good move. Laurent Rossi did a really good job bringing in Otmar Zafnauer.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good move strategy wise. But other than that, I don't have much to say.
Yeah. I don't have anything to say either.
Let's get to the good stuff.
Meanwhile, it's time that we laugh about Ferrari.
They're fourth?
Yeah.
No, it's true. They are fourth.
Oh, I love Ferrari. Too busy doing Ferrari things. Ah, isn't
Do
it
they use
beautiful?
three control electronics by race two?
Isn't it funny? Leclerc is
Ow!
how do you take a 10-place grid penalty in race 2 because you need to switch an engine?
It's just ridiculous. And on top of that, typically you take these penalties because you want to sacrifice your position in the race. They replace the part which counts towards the penalty that they had in Saudi Arabia, and they still DNF'd in Bahrain. It makes no sense.
The engine literally died in Bahrain.
Yeah, it makes
They
no
were like,
sense.
they were like, okay, back to the drawing board. Okay, we gave you this new engine. We'll take the 10-place grid penalty.
Makes no sense. Look, their car seems to have somewhat pace. It seems to be able to keep up with what the cars that are chasing the Red Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it has somewhat pace. It's not Mercedes, but it's not Aston Martin. I think that's like, I guess
Yeah,
I mean, that is exactly what they are.
that's exactly what it is. Um, Honestly, the most satisfying moment for me was the amazing pass that Lance Stroll pulled on Carlos Sainz in Saudi Arabia on lap 1 around the outside of the bank turn. It was beautiful. And that was when Ferrari tanked.
Yeah.
And Alonso made Sainz look ridiculous in Bahrain.
No, literally. Um, it seems like
Alonso pulled a fast one on Sainz.
he did, but if you and they heard on the radio, they mentioned Sainz is the one who mentioned this. He said that if he continues going at the most amount of pace possible, he wouldn't finish the race. So judging by the changing of the engines, I think that there are reliability issues that are not being seen by the mainstream media, or at least not being recognized so much by the mainstream media.
Yeah.
That
Hold on.
need to
He
be
actually
spoken.
said if he goes maximum pace for the entire race, he won't finish.
Yeah, if he was defending Alonso to his maximum capacity, he wouldn't finish the race, is what he said.
I had so much faith in Fred Vasseur.
Yeah,
I
but
think you did too.
I did, but at the same time, we have to ask ourselves, Jonah, why did they bring in Fred Vasseur? What was the switch from Bernardo and to Fred Vasseur for? It was a
Because they choked away a
strictly
championship.
strictly because of strategy reasons. That's how they choked away their championship.
It's not
By the end of
exactly
the
like
race,
their
they
strategy's
they
been any
you know how
better.
like at the Bell Center, it's like it's like the first row is row double A, and then it goes to double F, and then it's like
Yeah.
A B C again. They would have been at plan double F already. They would have gone through the alphabet and then had to go through it again by using double letters.
Oh my.
So it's that's the thing. It was very shocking, and actually realized by the commentators on Sky Sports that they were sticking to plan A in Bahrain.
Oh my God. This team never fails to disappoint.
Yeah.
I'm living for it. It's hilarious. And the thing is, they're not even doing that badly.
No, they're not. I mean, in comparison to 2020, they're not.
Okay, yeah, in comparison to 2020, they're not. In 2021, and they were first in the constructors by a long shot at this point. But no, sorry, not 21. in 22. You get the
They
idea.
weren't they like tied with? Oh, no, they weren't.
No,
They
they
were
weren't.
because there was a double DNF in Bahrain.
Um, I just love that Ferrari. The only thing that undoes Ferrari is Ferrari itself. And I think that is the funniest thing that we observe with this team all the time.
Yeah, and it's just we're not like Tifosi, like real Ferrari fans. I wonder how angry they must be for the past 5 years of
I've
this.
been living for the memes, Jordan. The memes have been hilarious.
It was funny because there were some memes about because in Drive to Survive, Gunther Steiner and Mattia Bernardo went to a vineyard to pick grapes for some wine,
I saw that.
and there were memes saying that they were saying that Mattia Bernardo drank a little too much wine throughout the entire year last year when it came to the right before the Ferrari strategy
It's
meetings.
like, oh, what's this? You're doing great in a race and you have a nice lead. Call him in. Call him in. Let's make a pit stop.
We are now switching to plan G.
Yeah.
Plan G.
Yes, Charles. Do you want to DNF now or DNF in 20 laps? Question.
Question. No, but this is what we should really be talking about. There was an issue in Saudi Arabia where Hamilton pitted under the safety car, but Charles Leclerc was not informed of it till after Hamilton pitted and was out of the pit lane. And he got really angry at Javi, his race engineer.
Yeah. Yeah. I
We need to
remember
talk
that.
about this. What do you think went down in the cool down room?
There were probably a lot of amazing and constructive criticism that was said in the cool down room, and absolutely nothing wrong was said. And everyone was super nice about it. And Charles said, listen, you made an honest mistake. It's okay. I forgive you. We'll talk about it in Melbourne.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. All right.
No, it's I love it.
It's just hilarious to see.
Well,
I think
I like a funny Ferrari. I feel so bad for Ferrari fans, but
I think that moment where he says like Javi, come on, is
yeah,
encapsulating of
Charles
Ferrari
is
as a whole.
visibly frustrated,
Yeah.
like far more than Signs.
Yeah. Ferrari's Science is happy to be there.
That's true. That's true.
I'm not for Ferrari.
But you gotta think Charles is. I don't think Charles is looking for a way out, but like
He's not.
Charles is definitely like when could
How are
someone?
you gonna get it together?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like signing a 1-year deal for the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid is your head coach, but Patrick Mahomes gets injured the last game of the season for 3 seasons in a row. That's what it's like.
Yep.
And I thought of that example because of the Kansas City Chiefs jersey that's hanging up in your wall.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill. He no longer plays there.
Yeah.
I started getting into soccer, but I'm not gonna make a soccer reference because I'm not good enough at it. But it's okay. Ferrari and CF Montreal are having their equal shares of identity crisis, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Anyways,
but let's move on to a team that has an identity crisis with their car itself.
Mercedes, yeah. What?
Yeah, so
after Bahrain, they finished double points and they were like, they basically threw in the towel and they're like, listen, guys, we suck. We're gonna
literally.
We're gonna be better than this. We're gonna fight, keep on pushing, like we're gonna make it, and it's gonna suck for a bit, but it's okay because we're gonna be so much better. What? We're Are Mercedes sandbagging on social media? Like,
I don't know. I think that, first of all, that move by Fernando Alonso on Lewis Hamilton, the switched in the inside, nobody ever takes like that, but he does.
Loved it.
I think that made Toto Wolff shit his pants and say, PR, we have to handle it because that move was embarrassing.
Yeah.
And that's
That
what they came
was
up with.
that was the F1 equivalent of getting your ankles crossed in basketball.
No, literally. That was literally.
Oh, I don't know. Mercedes look like they have I don't might they win a race? Maybe one. Are they gonna get podiums if they fight with Alonso? But I don't understand why they keep on throwing in the towel and saying that they suck. Because they don't suck. They're third in the constructors. It's not bad. However, it's I don't I don't understand why. Probably because their standard is we're winning the championship or nothing. But I, you're not doing bad.
So I completely agree with you. They're not Alpine, they're not like fifth, but they're not the top two teams, which is very rare for them because they've always been at least a top two team. When in 2021 they were fighting with Red Bull.
Yeah.
Before they got into F1, they were up there.
Mhm.
Schumacher was, fighting with the car.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of similar to Aston Martin, where they bring in a veteran to develop the car, where Martin brought in Vettel to develop their car. That's what Mercedes did.
Mercedes did an A plus with
And they did great, for 8 years. So
mhm.
I completely agree. They're not terrible, but they're not what the Mercedes standard is.
I'm very disappointed Toto hasn't smashed any tables.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he's gotten used to this new reality.
I think he's zen. He's far more zen than when I saw him in 21 because 21 was
Right.
bad. 21 was very bad.
Yeah. That's the thing. And so there's one thing that I want to bring up with you, Jonah, that I think that you would find very interesting about Mercedes. I was watching the post-race show of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.
Mhm.
Or was the pre-race show, one of the shows, and it was Martin Brundle that was speaking. And they had just gotten off of not an interview, but it was a discussion with Nico Rosberg and Martin Brundle, and they were saying that a big reason why Mercedes is not the team that it used to be is because 40% of engineers and strategists that were at Mercedes during the 8 years of glory are no
Are
longer
gone.
at the team. And I found that super interesting
Mhm.
because it's teams like Aston Martin who've picked from them and picked from Red Bull to improve their team. And it's teams like Williams who picked from
Yeah.
them to get their team out of the graveyard. And 40% of their workforce in terms of race performance is gone.
Yeah.
So
Also, they
that's
could
a
have
very big contributing factor in my opinion.
yeah. Also, for about 30 minutes, they had a podium in Saudi Arabia.
30 minutes. No more and no less. And it
Yeah.
wasn't even during the ceremony.
They even gave George the trophy and then he gave it back to Alonso.
Yeah, you see the Instagram he posted?
I live for that.
He posted an Instagram.
Honestly, F1 social media has
Yeah,
been amazing this season.
yeah, so far.
Um, but yeah, and on top of that, they're tied right now. They're in third. They're in third because they have worse results technically.
But they're
Um,
tied on the constructors
but they're
because
tied in the
Lance DNF.
constructors because Lance DNF'd. And oh, my heart went out for Lance because he was doing so well. But anyways, um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're like, you know what, we're not winning a championship this year, so this is a failure. But I don't think that they should be reacting that way because it's even though it's a relatively positive team vibe from what I see, um, having that sort of negative mentality of championship or bust is definitely not going to help you go through a 23 race season.
I completely agree. It's gonna implode eventually
Yeah.
if we keep that culture up.
And it'll start with Toto. I'll be honest with you. Toto's gonna like fire everyone kind of thing.
Yeah. Um,
Um, can we talk about Aston Martin now?
it's actually funny because it's crazy how we're talking about Aston Martin so late into the episode.
I am so happy, Jordan. You have no idea. Aston Martin have 2 podiums in 2 races.
It's more than they have in the entire existence of Aston Martin.
I would like to apologize for all the bad things I said about Fernando Alonso.
Oh yeah, remember 3 years ago we ranked him like 18th in our driver rankings.
I would like to apologize. He is not the teammate killer. He is doing great. He is Lance's biggest pump up boy. I am so happy.
The amount of memes about there being a side contract about pumping up Lance is
I
hilarious.
don't care because this man can do whatever he wants as long as he keeps on getting podiums. I cannot believe the kind of momentum that I have seen over the last 2 races for Aston Martin. And like, I have followed this team in 4 different iterations since I've started following F1. I have never felt this optimistic. And I am ready to be disappointed, but at the same time, I'm gonna ride the wave.
I am more optimistic. Am am I more optimistic this season than in 2020? I don't know, actually, because the issue with this season is that Red Bull is so far ahead,
Yeah.
and that if Red Bull keeps up their reliability, are we going to see anybody else win besides somebody named Sergio Perez or Max Verstappen?
Yeah, so I was gonna save my hot take for when we actually started talking about Red Bull, but I I think that Red Bull are gonna win every single race.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, we could mix in Aston Martin when that's
Unless unless both Red Bulls DNF or something happens in qualifying. Basically, in regular circumstances, Red Bull is winning every race this season.
yeah, because the fact that Max went 15th to
To second.
second on a track where overtaking is one of the hardest on the calendar.
But the overtaking this year was great.
Yeah, but typically Jeddah is not like, in terms of like overtaking, I'd say it's in like the bottom half of overtaking tracks.
Yeah.
It's
Also
not
really
Monaco, but
long.
it's not CGV either.
Yeah. Did you know that it's the second longest track on the calendar?
The longest is,
Longest is Spa.
yeah, it would make sense. I didn't know that
And
was the second longest track actually.
because Jeddah's a fast lap,
I would
but
think that Baku is up there for longest track.
yeah, Baku's up there too.
Marina Bay probably.
No, Marina Bay is not that bad. It's just that it's a slow track.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
But Jeddah is long and it's fast. Let's be real, Jeddah is 2 glorified straights.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess. I really like the Corniche. I'm a very big fan of Jeddah Corniche. I hope that they're not switching tracks anytime soon.
I've consistently said that it was too dangerous, and I
I think
still
it's a
stand by
really,
that.
from a driver's perspective, there's an argument to be made about the danger. But from a fan perspective, I think it's a great track and it makes for good races. And more so, it makes for a great spectacle of motorsport. The lights,
Yeah.
the Red Sea.
And it brings the spectacle of Fernando Alonso in green. 2 podiums in 2 races.
This is what it comes down to. It
I
comes down
had
to the fact that Aston Martin built a fantastic car.
I know. Can you believe it? And it looks like it was actually their own car.
I know it does. It's a bit of Red Bull, a bit of Ferrari, a bit of Mercedes back end. It's interesting.
Yeah, but it's actually their own car. There's no pink Mercedes rumors and points deductions and Euro fines. at least from what
Yeah,
I know. So,
but we know so far.
well, what we know so far, but still, I I can't believe it. I'm gonna stop fangirling about Fernando Alonso because hopefully I get to continue fangirling about him throughout this entire season. Um, but Lance has not been doing badly either. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure I what Lance already has what he finished P5 or P6
P6 in Bahrain,
in Bahrain and he DNF'd uh in
but was
Saudi.
on pace for
But he
P5.
did, yeah, exactly. But Lance did so, like Lance is doing so well too. I mean, to be fair, did I expected him to be better than Fernando out of the gate, because he's been at that team forever. But clearly it shows that Fernando still has some more to give. And it's impressive to watch.
I
But
don't think
Lance
Fernando
Lance
just
has
has more to
definitely
give.
not done badly either.
I think he has a whole other F1 career in front of him.
No.
Not a 10-year long career, but a 4-year career. Yeah.
Yeah, probably I would say 2-3 more years.
Yeah. It's very
Jordan.
possible.
Lance Stroll has more points than Charles Leclerc.
It's very possible that Alonso wins a world championship in the next 4 years.
You're kidding. That is a
Yeah,
bold take.
it's still it's possible. I didn't say it's gonna happen. I said it's possible. Just like
But
how it's possible that we see Stroll on pole again if we have another wet qualifying.
wait for it. Oh my god, imagine Montreal.
You know, that it was raining last year.
It was raining last year during quali. And I could tell you because I was soaked the entire day in the rain.
Right.
Um, but Lance Stroll has more points than Charles Leclerc, is all that I could say right now. And Fernando Alonso has 2 podiums in 2 races.
Let's move on to Red Bull.
Yes,
Are they two ahead? Are they the best car we've ever seen in Formula One?
they're too good. It is unreal how good they are.
It's unfair.
Max went from 15th to second.
I honestly bet that in a couple of races time, we're gonna see the FIA step in because there have been so many complaints, and somebody's gonna find something illegal about that car.
I don't think so.
No, you don't think that?
Okay, regardless of if they find something illegal or not, what are they gonna do? Make them switch the part? Okay, fine. There's instead of 20 seconds ahead, they're gonna be 15 seconds ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't.
I don't think it's gonna make that much of a difference. In normal
Yeah,
circumstances, they could easily win every single race this season.
I agree. I think that George Russell's take of them being 23-0 is very, very, very plausible.
Yeah. Also, shout out to Sergio Perez, who got the redemption win from last year in
Yes, a
Saudi
very good
Arabia.
drive.
Especially with the horrible timing of the safety car
Safety car, yeah.
last year in Saudi Arabia, which knocked him down to fourth. Um, but that was an exceptional drive. I have heard rumors of Red Bull rivalry between the two drivers.
Rumors. It's. Do you not see Sergio Perez's look on his face when he
Yeah,
found out that Max sniped the fastest lap from him?
yeah.
He was so cheesed. And the worst part is that the team wanted Sergio to get the fastest lap.
But then Max was like, I don't come to them, they come to me.
No, honestly, he said, who's the fastest lap? The radio responded, whoever's Max's race engineer is, I forget his name right now. But
JP or GP.
sorry, sure. He said, we're not concerned about that right now.
And then Max was like, watch me.
Yeah. Anyways,
If they're really good.
it's unfair how good they are. In a
I
way,
I am living for Sergio Perez though.
in a way, it kind of, because of Red Bull's domination, it sometimes feels like the new regulations didn't do much. But
I
that's
doubt
a
that.
topic for a whole other podcast.
I doubt that so much. You got to give them props. They did build by far the fastest car.
Yeah.
You have come on. You got to reward their innovation, regardless of what it makes for the racing content. They
I
managed to build the fastest car by far, and credit to their engineers and Adrian Newey and that entire gang, because everyone clearly missed the mark.
Look, Adrian Newey is an F1 technical genius. He built the Williams championship cars,
Mhm.
and
That's
now
how long he's been around, eh? He's been
yeah,
around for like 40 years or something
I
like that.
I believe he had something to do with Lewis Hamilton's championship winning McLaren, if I'm not mistaken.
Possible.
But I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that, JJF1 community. Um,
Next
but
thing we know, we're gonna look it up, and he designed the Brawn.
yeah, no, literally. Um, but yeah, so I think that Adrian Newey is a genius.
Yeah,
But we have to ask ourselves the question of how, what have the regulations done so far. But I think that that is a whole topic for a whole other podcast. So
yeah. So Newey was at Williams from 1991 to 1996,
right, I knew that.
including two world champions,
I knew
Nigel
that.
Mansell in 92 and Hill in 96.
Right.
Then he went to McLaren
Right.
from
Okay.
1997 until 2005, when Mika Hakkinen won his two titles.
Okay. Yeah, it was the Hakkinen championship. It wasn't a Hamilton
Yeah.
championship.
And then he's been at Red Bull since 2006.
Right. So the Seb Vettel 4 championships.
So yeah, plus the Max Verstappen two were at 6, plus 2 for Hakkinen and Hill and Mansell. He's had 10 championships under his belt.
He has more championships than Schumacher and Hamilton.
Yeah.
Who's the real GOAT of F1?
Christian Horner.
um,
What an interesting scenario we have today
yeah.
in the current landscape of F1. And we're recording on Monday. On Sunday, in 6 days from recording, we will be in Melbourne. And I'm pretty sure the race is at 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that. Is it? Oh, it's 12:30 in the morning.
So let's make some predictions, Jonah. What is your one bold prediction, and who do you think is winning?
Max is going to win, and my bold prediction is Oscar Piastri will get his first points in Formula One. Also,
That's
correction, the race is at 1 o'clock in the morning.
yes, I know.
Are
My
you going to be
prediction
awake?
is that I believe Sergio Perez wins, and I think my bold prediction is that Max Verstappen DNFs and Sergio Perez wins. That is my bold prediction.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very, very interesting. Well, let's see what happens in 6 days from recording. Thanks everyone for listening. If you want to
Yes.
follow us from here on out, feel free to like our Facebook page and follow us on Instagram at the JJF1 podcast, and we will see you for the next episode. See ya.